Saturday, I will be teaching the third workshop in my three-part series that started with Freddie Green chords and continued with the swing scale. This Saturday's workshop is called Bebop for Beginners, and it's about how to take that step from playing swing-style phrasing on the blues to actually addressing some of the sounds, licks, and chords that you hear when bebop musicians play on the blues. Now, there's a reason that the series started with chords and then moved through swing phrasing and now is ending up with the bebop ideas. And that is because if you can understand the underlying chord progression that people are thinking about when they're soloing, it makes it a lot easier to understand why they're choosing the scales they choose and why they're playing the kinds of licks they're playing. So when it comes to bebop, there are really three moments in the 12-bar blues that make it sound different from the way swing players are playing on the blues. And those three moments come first in bar 4 on the way to bar 5. If you're thinking about swing chord voicings on a B-flat blues, in bar 4, you might have an altered sound on the B-flat chord taking over the 4 chord. I did a whole video on this particular moment recently, and I'll put a link to it down below. But if you understand that bebop musicians are thinking of this altered chord sound in bar 4 over to bar 5, it can help you to think about playing the kinds of licks that first spell out a B-flat 7 chord or a B-flat 9 chord and then spell out more of an augmented or flat 13 chord. So that's the first spot. As you continue on, the second spot is in bar 6, where you often hear one bar of the 4 chord and then a bar of sharp 4 diminished, which in the key of B flat would mean an E chord. And the great thing about playing over the 4 chord to a sharp 4 diminished chord is that if you are playing just blues licks off of the 1 chord, so B flat blues licks over the 4 chord, when you come to that E diminished chord in the next bar, you've already got, here's the flat 5, here's the diminished 7, here is the root, and here, if you add in this note, which is a pretty familiar looking note when you're playing on the blues, now you've got the minor third. So you've got all that diminished stuff just by playing these kind of blues licks. So that's the second moment. And that comes back to B flat. And the third moment is when it goes up to a G7 or down to a G7, which is the 6th chord, or the chord built off the 6th degree up from the root of the key you're in, which in the key of B flat would be G7. And bebop players think about putting this chord in because it's the 5 of the 2 chord, and the 2 chord is what starts off the turnaround in bar 9. So instead of having just 5 to 4 to 1, a swing chord progression will often have 2 to 5 to 1. And so this G7 as the 5 of C minor helps to set it up. And one really simple way you can stay in this familiar area and still get that sound that you need for the G chord is to think about something as simple as a G triad. This shape, the 3rd, the 5th, and the root. And then around that you can add in, say, the flat 13 again, right above the 5th, or the flat 9, right above the root, and maybe the flat 7, right? Just thinking about just a G7 chord shape. So just those 3 spots, 4th bar, and then the 6th bar, and then the 8th bar. And not just that those chords are there, but that they're resolving, that what you're really playing is B flat altered over to the 4 chord. And then what you're really playing is E diminished resolving back to the 1 chord. And then finally that you're playing G7 resolving back to C minor. So by looking at those 3 spots, you can start to understand where things are happening that change it from a swing sound to a bebop sound. So again, the idea is if you understand how swing musicians look at the chord progression of the blues, then you can use that chord progression as a kind of roadmap as you go to apply swing phrasing and swing scales to the blues. Bebop is really just an extension of and a development of swing. So once you understand how swing musicians play blues, you can zero in on those spots like the ones I just pointed out as specific moments to take the swing phrasing and enhance and develop it with these specific bebop moves, which typically involve things like the altered scale, the diminished scale, and some chromaticism. So that's what I'm going to be covering this weekend in the Bebop for Beginners workshop, those bebop moments and how to incorporate them into the overall swing approach to the blues. If that's something you'd like to learn more about, you can check out the link below or the link on screen to learn more and sign up. If you've got a question about the upcoming workshop or anything else about today's video, please leave it down below. I would love to hear from you. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.